All right, so today we've got an absolutely historic episode for all you Satillionaires out there. It's my wife, Anne, number 39. We talk about some of her hesitations with Bitcoin. We talk about how we came to acquire our first Bitcoin and the whole process.
And watch all the way to the end to see if Chris's wife lets him buy more Bitcoin. Welcome to Sat Chats, the Bitcoin podcast where we chat about sats. Sats are the smallest part of a Bitcoin, the same way pennies are the smallest part of a dollar. With Sat Chats, we are building the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center to serve as your gateway to generational wealth. So if you are new to Bitcoin, we want to chat about sats with you. Head to satchats.com to grab your slot in the studio today. I'm your host, Stuart Bitcoin Maxi, who wears prescription sunglasses to protect you and your loved ones from my Bitcoin laser eyes.
And I'm your co-host, Chris, founder and CEO of Ithaca Hummus, proud multi-coiner and Bitcoin smash buyer. We would absolutely love it if you smashed that like and subscribe button on YouTube, the bells, the whistles on Spotify, whatever's there. Hit us up. Let the world know that they need to see more Sat Chats.
And what happens if they are among the first 999 plus one to subscribe on YouTube?
So two things. We will be giving away 1 million sats to one of the first 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And we'll be launching a live show Friday mornings at 10 a.m. We'll answer your questions. We'll chat about sats. It's going to be great.
Yeah. All right. So today in the studio, we have got an extra special guest. Woo! Oh my gosh. This one's going to be good. This is Chris's wife, Anne.
Hi, sweetie.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
So every single guy listening who has a wife is like, whoop. He just went full alert mode because we are going to attempt to demonstrate how we can get our wives to let us buy more Bitcoin. That's what this show is about today.
If I could rewind my life to, God, 6 months ago, this is the episode I would have wished that I had.
Oh man.
On that road trip with Anne at night when I was reading her the Bitcoin Standard. This would have been so much better because I was reading the Bitcoin Standard to her and she would just fall asleep after like the first two paragraphs. This would have been way better.
Yeah. If I could rewind back to every single day of my life for the past year, I could really use this episode because every day I'm like, babe, please buy more Bitcoin. Please. Woo! So we are going to answer Anne's Bitcoin questions. But before we do, help our Satillionaires get to know you a little bit.
All right. Well, I've been with Chris for 13 years, and we have 3 little kids. And Chris has been really interested. Well, this isn't about me, but you've been like talking about Bitcoin for a few months. I can tell you the story about my Bitcoin journey.
Yeah, tell us where it started.
Let's go.
Okay. Well, like 3 years ago, you talked to me one time about Bitcoin and like how it's made and what it is. And yeah, I just remember like laying in bed and you're like, yeah, this Bitcoin thing, it's mined and it's like from a blockchain and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm either in a rock quarry or on the dark web. Like, what is this? This is like really cryptic.
Where are we? Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way this is like legit gonna make it. So then we dropped the subject. And then like a few months ago, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm Bitcoin. Like, remember I told you about that? Well, I think this is going to save the world and I got to get some like immediately. And I was like, whoa, nothing's changed for me, but I'll let you get a little bit since you're so passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe a couple months later, you were like, I'm starting a new company. This is like on a Friday when we're going down to get pizza with the family, just in the car. And he's like, I have to tell the world about Bitcoin. And I was like, okay, I'm going to throw up.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, this is out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And here we are. And I'm glad you said you asked to buy it every day because so does he. So he's not the only one.
Yeah. I'm like, babe, Bitcoin, please, Bitcoin, come Bitcoin, but Bitcoin. And look, my son even got me this cup. And by the way, Lie Guy, here you go, bud. Right there. Hold that up. Crypto Dad. That's not our favorite. Crypto is kryptonite. It'd be better if it said Bitcoin Dad. But it does say, a dad who checks the price of Bitcoin before checking the weather in the morning. So it's got some good qualities to it. So, I'm going to have to take a minute to deflate my ego here. Because when number 18 dad came on the show, I believed that I had introduced him to Bitcoin. And he told us that one of his day trading types had introduced him, not me. I thought I had introduced you to Bitcoin, but she's saying 3 years ago. You were talking about Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely swirling around in my brain of like, how do I invest in things that are going to appreciate in value? What are some alternative strategies for Ithaca hummus? And so I've been knowing about Bitcoin for 3 years. I wouldn't say that when I first brought it up, it was a serious, like, we have to do this like it was a few months ago. I would say that it's like the backed up pressure of like knowing about it 3 years ago and now seeing like, wow, if I would have taken action 3 years ago, that definitely supercharged my my intent a few months ago to say we've got to do something about this now, and our conversations just fueled the fire.
So the first time you all spoke about it, it was more like an everyday stock or bond or just kind of an investment idea that Chris had. He wasn't a zealot.
No, he actually didn't even say anything about investing. He was more like, this is what Bitcoin is, because I was asking to like, what, how is it made and where'd it come from and stuff. And that was just the conversation.
So then he came to you a couple of months ago. I mean, really, when, can you remember exactly when? Was it August? Was it July? Was it September?
Maybe October.
Maybe October.
September, October.
Well, we there was an intermediary step where at the end of 2023, maybe the beginning of 2024, we were doing some financial planning. Remember that with Mario? And I was like, we should invest in Bitcoin now. And I was trying to get us there, and I was starting to have some conversations at Ithaca Hummus about it. And I think the price was at like 50 or 60K.
When was this?
The beginning of 2024, end of 2023.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, January, February, it was like 60K.
Yeah. And I was getting a lot of like negative feedback and just like roadblocks seemed to be stacking up on me. So I was like, all right, now's not the time. I've got other things that are more important for my time and energy. So I just kind of moved on and regretfully moved on.
Yikes.
And then I just couldn't take it anymore. This was, like 4 months ago, when the price was like 100.
And then Chris was like, boom!
Finally,
Give me that Bitcoin.
Picked up some coins and
yeah.
But anyway, sorry.
No, yeah.
I just wanted to throw that.
I didn't remember that. But I was like, this is way too risky. And financial advisors don't recommend buying it. So we're like, oh, we should, go with what they're saying, because what do I know, really?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's tough.
So you're famous on the show for being the wife who falls asleep while Chris reads the Bitcoin standard to you. I was like, oh my God. Can you imagine chapter 1? Once upon a time, people use different forms of money. He's like, no, you know what I mean? Like, immediately go to sleep. That is so funny. And we've had it in the comments too. People in the comments on YouTube talk about how it's hilarious to think about how he literally put you to sleep trying to get you to like Bitcoin as much as he does. So
what you don't know is that after you fell asleep, I continued to read it in a whisper and directly into your ear.
Well, I was like, I'm sleeping now.
You just went for like osmosis at that point, like subconscious absorption of the Bitcoin standard. That is so funny. So can you remember anything from the Bitcoin standard? Like anything at all?
Great question.
I have to say I did continue reading it, but I haven't finished it or anything. I just remember them talking about, how there has been all these different forms of currency throughout history, and eventually each form like dies away and a new one's adopted. So I get that. I mean, that was good info. I mean, what else do I remember? Maybe not much.
So what is holding you back from being as cray-cray about Bitcoin as your husband?
I think it just is not tangible for me. Like how would it be used, if you were going to pay for something, it's not adopted by a bunch of companies yet. Like you can't use it. And also, I mean, it's nice that the government just announced that, it's going to be a gold standard, or,
Bitcoin
what's it called?
Yeah, the strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Yeah, the reserve. So that's like really
so I can buy
positive.
More now, right?
I mean, it just validates it more, and it's kind of saying like,
good time to buy.
Chris is like, so can I go ahead? Can I cut you off real quick? Can I go ahead and buy more? Can I buy more, man? yeah, strategic. The price look good. Get some now. Get some now. So it doesn't feel real to you.
Yeah, it feels like, and also I don't love the fact that, well, I mean, I guess it's the, how you have the card with like the 15-word phrase. And then if you lose it, you're just screwed. I mean, I guess that's like if you had gold bars in your house, they could get stolen or cash, but it seems like not very safe. I want to ask what your recommendation is for, keeping it safe, but
okay. Those
are a few concerns.
All right. Well, let's get you to the point where you want some Bitcoin. Then we'll tackle how to keep it safe, right? Like, first things first, it doesn't feel real. To your point, it is interesting to note that at least the United States of America seems to think it's real.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that make you feel to see the world's superpower being like, yes.
Really good about it, because it kind of backs it. Not that it's backed by the government in the way that cash is or whatever, but it is, saying like, we need this. It's not going to just go away and disappear into the universe?
I think this happens for a lot of people because Wall Street's endorsement of Bitcoin was what got me started as well.
Yeah.
Somebody came to me earlier in time during the 2017 bull run. They're like, dude, Bitcoin. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have time for this. So I'm like, nah. But when I checked the news January of 2024 and it was like Bitcoin ETFs approved, I was like, well, what is an ETF? And then when I figured out what that was, it's like, oh, this means that like Wall Street is ready to package up Bitcoin and start, buying it, investing in it, getting retail people into it. And that was kind of my cue to be like, well, if Wall Street feels like it can build something on top of Bitcoin, like it has to be something. And to your point, I think a lot of people are going to be just like you, where they're like, well, if America thinks they can build something on top of Bitcoin, it has to be something. So what is it? It's not a dark web rock quarry, right? So if you had to explain Bitcoin to someone else, if they said, hey, it's not real, what is it? Like, what would you say?
I mean, that something like someone that would, it's kind of like coding a computer, I guess, which I don't understand anything about that, but I'm sure that people who do that know a lot more about Bitcoin. And but yes, it's just like a computer algorithm, because I know that now that it produces a certain amount of Bitcoin, and then it's done eventually. And each year you can produce, a certain amount also. It's all set into this algorithm, but that doesn't explain exactly, like, it still doesn't seem like real. You can't touch that. Also, there's some kind of like website that you go to where you can see how much Bitcoin you have, like once you buy it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have a good explanation.
We've asked people who have been in Bitcoin since day one, and they're like, oh gosh, let me see. It's like this, it's like that, And I've come to believe that the reason why it's so hard to accurately describe Bitcoin is because Bitcoin is such a breakthrough technology for humanity that none of us fully grasp what has been produced. So if you think about it, to the point where some people can't even determine whether Bitcoin were created or discovered.
Oh.
Is that crazy?
Yeah.
What? Clearly, Satoshi created Bitcoin. Or did he discover it? Did he figure out a way to create digital scarcity? In a world where any digital data can be copy pasted infinitely, did he actually discover a way to make it so that you can't copy and paste these 21 million units of information? It's crazy.
Yeah, but who says that is a currency? I mean, the government says this dollar bill, you're going to use this, to buy things. But like, how do you turn Bitcoin into like a currency?
It's a good question, because most of us would describe Bitcoin the same way Satoshi describes Bitcoin in his white paper. Very first line, he says, Bitcoin is electronic peer-to-peer cash, which means it's meant to go from me directly to you, not from me through a bank to you, not from me through a credit card processor to you, through Venmo, PayPal, whatever to you, me right to you. Just like if I'm handing you $100 bill, cash, the deal's done. It's just electronic. It's an electronic $100 bill, right? So most of us would describe it that way. And I try to describe it that way so that I'm being like accurate. What's Bitcoin? Well, and I say to I'm like, Kristen, it's electronic peer-to-peer cash. She's like, the only word I got out of that was cash, and it's not cash. I'm like, it's electronic peer-to-peer cash, man. Okay. So, but I think it was Chappie who described it to me as monetized digital scarcity. I was like, explosion. So money, and you're reading the Bitcoin Standard, Safety teaches us that money is not necessarily just something that we all decide has value. Some monies are good monies because they have the properties of good money. So in the case of your friendly local nation state, that's money because your friendly local nation state says so. That's what the word fiat means, by decree, right? Most of our parenting is fiat parenting because why are we going to do this? Because I said so, right? So the government's like, look, this is money because we said so. So they can do whatever they want with that money, which means we all have to do whatever they say. All right. So is it a great medium of exchange? That's, aspect number one. Yeah, it's great. I can exchange those dollars for anything I want in America. I can't exchange them for anything I want in Angola or Mongolia or India, right? Because that's not money there. But here in America, sweet. Another aspect of money, it has to store your value. Does that store your value?
Store your value. What do you mean?
Can you buy the same amount of stuff today that you could buy 10 years ago with the same amount of money?
No.
Nah. Kristen and I had brunch yesterday, the two of us. Talk about our little trip to Iceland coming up. We got 2 entrees and 2 caffeinated beverages at a low-key spot that did have a waiter, but it's like wasn't all the way up to that level. $60. 60 squilks. That's 30 bills a person for some calories in a coffee. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like maybe $30 for that would be reasonable, but it's 60. So does it store your value? No. And then is it a unit of account, right? What does that mean? Well, this table costs $150. That monitor costs $200. This astronaut costs $10, right? You can think about stuff in terms of that. You would never try to think about how many barrels of oil it would take or how many living rooms in your house it would take to buy this. They're not units of account. So what makes the dollar money? Well, it has 2 out of 3, and also the government says so. So that's 2 out of 3 ain't bad, and they tell us we got to use it. So great, we're done there, right? All right, well, let's think about gold for a second. Who says that gold is money? Not the government. Pretty much humanity says that gold is money. Can you exchange it for things? Theoretically, yeah. And if this were the Middle Ages and you're like, hey, I got some gold coins, like it would be a lot more commonplace. We don't really like walk around with gold coins in our pockets though, do we? We don't really like use it at the grocery store. Nobody really takes gold.
Yeah.
Gold bugs love gold. They will like, hey, I'll take your gold. You can have these slips of paper. Like, there you go, bud. So it's not quite a medium of exchange, but historically it is. Is it a store of value? 100%. Gold is as good as gold. And if you look at the value of gold, it consistently buys you the same amount of stuff over time.
But if nobody will take your gold coins, how do you know that? Like,
you have to take that gold to somebody who values it You got to get money in exchange, and then you got to go use the money. So you almost have to filter your store of value through a medium of exchange to make your purchase. And people are like, that's such a big pain. I don't want to have to take my gold to a gold bug and get dollars for it. And then, okay, well, in exchange, you can just hang out with dollars and your purchasing power is going to tank. In exchange for you not wanting to do a small amount of work, you're going to lose so much of your purchasing power that it becomes enraging. You know, when the federal government's like, hey, we're going to inflate the money supply 2 to 3% per year. Like, we want inflation to be 2 to 3%. That means that your purchasing power goes to zero every 35 to 40 years, right? Which means in our lifetimes, the value of all of our money has gone to zero one time already. Well, and if we live to be 120, that means we might go broke 3 times without even knowing it, right?
Why wouldn't we know?
Because we're not actually losing our money. Our money's still there. It's just buying us less and less and less and less and less until it is as if your purchasing power, it's as if you've gone bankrupt. Because you could buy 100% 40 years ago, and with that money, you can now buy no percent, right? You could probably buy that brunch on Sunday 40 years ago for like $6, but now it's 60. So you have gone broke. Okay. But it's too tough to convert your money into a store of value. So let's just keep it as dollars, y'all. No, get out of money as quickly as you possibly can. Now, gold, is it a unit of account? Yes. This is worth an ounce of gold. This is worth 10 ounces of gold. This is worth a bar of gold. That gold has good money properties. Like Safety would look at that and say, yes, we're all kind of just deciding, but gold is rare. If you said, hey, let me use copper, well, copper might rust, or copper might be so freely available that if you try to use that as your store of value, they're like, well, I got tons of copper over here. You're like, oh, shoot. That means that my share of copper isn't worth very much. But with gold, they only find so much. So when you put your value into it, you're banking on the fact that when you come back to it, they won't have found a ton more gold out of nowhere, right? Okay. So what makes Bitcoin money? And see, it's just like Safety, and you kind of have to go on this big tangent to get to Bitcoin, which makes it hard for people to follow along or care, because they're like, well, I don't want to learn about all this. But it's so important. It's so important, because if you're not, you're going to go bankrupt 3 times in your life. You're going to go bankrupt, because they're like, don't pay attention to what we're doing, okay? Just let us tell you what money is, and let us make as much of it as we want for ourselves, but you do need to work for it, okay?
We're going to make it nice and easy for you. Just keep doing the easy, convenient thing, and don't worry about it.
Yes. And number 33, Jameson pointed out that Bitcoiners are basically fighting against human nature every day to take the inconvenient route, because in the end, it's 1,000,000 times better. In fact, since the start of Bitcoin, it's roughly 200 million times better. So Bitcoin, all right, is it a medium of exchange? Technically, yes. Like gold. Technically, yes. You can come to my house. I'll sell you anything out of my house if you want to pay me in Bitcoin, because you can send it right to me and I can give you the thing and we're done.
And also you could exchange it for dollar bills. So just like gold.
You could do that. Yeah. You can totally do that. All of these online exchanges like Bitcoin, they will say, hey, you want to sell me your Bitcoin? Sure. And really a better term is you're exchanging the Bitcoin for dollars, because it's money. Okay. So you could turn it into dollars and then buy something. Or for somebody that accepts Bitcoin directly, you just send them the Bitcoin. But, can you go to the grocery store right now? Not really. You can't really go to the grocery store and pay in gold either. Kind of the dollar's the only thing that's rolling right now. But that's okay. You can just use Bitcoin as a store of value, and you can say, hey, I'm not going to use this money for a while. It's basically a melting ice cube in my savings account because my share of the dollar network is going down every second. What are they printing? 1 trillion new dollars every
100 days.
100 days? They're printing $1 trillion every 100 days?
Wow.
That's cray-cray. And we're $36 trillion in debt. Yeah. Last year was the first year that we spent more money on interest payments than defense. Oof.
Bad.
Right? So that whole thing's a mess. And your share of that network is being decreased every second of every day. So if you're not going to use that money, go ahead and put it into Bitcoin for now, because Bitcoin will protect it for you. Yes, it'll be 80, then it'll be 90, then it'll be 100, then it'll be 90. That's actually just the exchange rate of dollars to Bitcoin. The amount of Bitcoin that you have is always going to be the amount of Bitcoin that you have. If you go get 1 Bitcoin, when you come back, it's still going to be 1 Bitcoin. It's not going to be 0.75 Bitcoin because there's only 21 million Bitcoin. It's even better than gold because they find more gold all the time. Nowhere near as much as money, but they do find a little bit of gold.
Still more than Bitcoin, though, even today.
Even today, yeah. So we know how much Bitcoin there is, 21 million. Never will there be more. So when you get your little piece of the pie, that's your piece. And you can count on that to stay your piece. They cannot devalue Bitcoin. They can't debase Bitcoin. They can't make your share of the network smaller because the network is limited in size.
Why can't they devalue it? Like, if it's, and when you say it's, now it's like 82 and it was 100, like that doesn't show the value of Bitcoin right now. Like,
Okay. Good questions, both of them. So when we talk about devaluing, we talk about making more of.
okay.
If you store your value in homes and they build more homes, your home has been devalued because you're no longer operating with an asset that was as scarce as it was when you bought it. And we've been able to show on this, at least talk about it. We didn't pull up any maps, but we've been able to talk about how even land is something they're making more of. Yeah. So if you're like, you know what? They're not making more land. I'm going to buy some land. They are making more land. So if you store your value in something that they can make more of, it will lose value over time. If it's in a house, if it's in gold, if it's in land, for sure, if it's over there in that thing, right? When they make more of it, yours is worth less because of supply and demand. It's very basic, right? Bitcoin cannot be devalued because the program says, let there be 21 million Bitcoin and that's it. It's going to take a while to get it all out into circulation, but when it's done, that's all there is. So you know that when you put your hard-earned work into Bitcoin, it'll be there by the time you get back. So to close this thing up, when you look at Bitcoin, you're like, okay, here's something that's not only is it scarce like gold, it's literally capped. What's the supply cap of dollars? There ain't one. What's the supply cap of gold? We're not sure, but we're able to find, 2% more per year. What's the supply cap of Bitcoin? It's 21 million. So you have that supply cap. That makes it good as money because it is verifiably scarce. You know for a fact there's not more of it. It also can't be copied. It can't be messed with. It's very difficult to attack. It's super secure. It's basically digital scarcity. That's almost a miracle that this guy figured this thing out. So when we look at that digital scarcity, we're like, well, this would actually make for great money. This would actually make great money because we know it's scarce. So it's going to store our value. You can think about things as being worth 100 Bitcoin, 10 Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin, and it goes even lower. 100 million Satoshi, 10 million Satoshi, 1 million Satoshi, 1,000 sats. So you can use it as a unit of account, and hopefully over the course of this show's work, we'll be able to drive adoption of Bitcoin so that people are like, yeah, I take Bitcoin here. I take Bitcoin here, and people listening to the show, maybe Raleigh could become, a place where the majority of retail outlets accept Bitcoin.
Sir Walter.
So that's what makes Bitcoin valuable. That's why we're calling it money, is because it has Safedean's money properties to it. Plus, it's on the internet. I know you're like, well, it's not real. I mean, it's the realest unit of information on the internet that can be imagined, because it can't be reproduced. Unlike any other unit of digital information on the internet, Bitcoin cannot be reproduced because of its properties, its technologies, the program that runs it, the fact that we all have this database.
I also want to just like separate the difference between real and tangible. I know what you mean when you say it's not real, but it's real in the same way that an email is real, or the numbers that you see in your bank account when you log on to your bank. It's real. It's really there. It's really yours. So it's real in that sense. It might not be tangible, but we're already used to that. We're already used to seeing numbers on a screen that represent our personal balance sheet. We can't hold that. I mean, we could if we went and withdrew all the cash and held it in our hands, but you can do that same thing with Bitcoin. You can go to an exchange, you can exchange your Bitcoin for cash, and then you can hold that cash.
When you go, what's an exchange? What's an example of a Bitcoin
and you can think of an exchange as like a Bitcoin exchange as like a currency exchange. So if you go to travel, like when we went to South Africa, we went to the airport and I said, here's dollars, give me the South African currency, which I even forget what it is.
Me too.
Rands, I think. Yeah. It's the same exact thing. And they take a small fee.
Well, who is one of the Bitcoin exchanges?
Bitcoin Well.
Oh.
That's the one we like.
About. Yeah.
But there's many others. River, Swan, Coinbase. They're basically money exchangers.
They put the money in your bank account? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
You give them an account number and they wire it to the bank.
They're like, yeah, we'll take your Bitcoin.
Okay.
Right? Because they take your Bitcoin for 1% less than what it's worth. And then they turn around and sell it to the next guy for 1% more than what it's worth. And that 2% spread is how they make all their money.
Which is way less than a currency exchange, by the way.
Way less. So, is it real? Yes. Is it tangible? No. Is it the most real piece of information on the internet? Yes.
But that's not, and it's also not, makes it more tangible because you can get money in exchange. Like there's something that you can get, and then you can pay for things.
And this is where it gets to like this abstract idea that Stuart was talking about earlier. Like we can't really fathom it, but the fact that it's not tangible is one of the things that actually makes it valuable, because I can travel with all of our Bitcoin in my head. If I know that seed phrase, if I memorize those 24 words, I can go anywhere in the world and I can access that.
Yeah. Also, you need space to store gold or whatever, but here you just need a little.
I can only get onto an airplane with like $10,000 in cash. There's a limit. There's a limit to how much gold that you can even physically carry.
Right. But you can take all the Bitcoin you have wherever you want in your head. In your head. And you can transact with anyone, anywhere. Right? At any time.
So if you were in South Africa and you needed cash or rands, you would ask Bitcoin Well.
You might need an exchange that can deliver South African rands to you. You know, Bitcoin Well operates in Canada and the US. Okay. So I imagine they have Canadian dollars and US dollars. But you better believe there is an exchange that services South Africa.
Okay.
And they will put the rands in your account, you know. You would probably need a bank account that, you know, in South Africa that would take rands. So in your case, if I were you and I were in South Africa, I would and I gotta quit saying sell Bitcoin. I would exchange some Bitcoin for some cash. It would go to my bank account, and then I would go to a currency exchange and say, hey, I've got some US dollars. Let me grab some rands.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I would just use my credit card in South Africa and pay the international transaction fees. Like, it's all good. Because the whole financial network is just not real numbers already. It's already not real numbers. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when was the last time you used cash?
Yeah, no.
Not really ever. But the not real numbers that you use right now buy you less and less and less and less and less. And you have no control over what the issuer of that money does with that money. None.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have any at all. With gold, you can rely on it to not be a whole bunch more each year. But with Bitcoin, you can jump on Bitcoin, you can get some Bitcoin, you can get a complete copy of every transaction that's ever occurred between every single person ever.
Oh.
That's what the blockchain is. The blockchain is basically like a big giant spreadsheet that's out on the internet. And it's updated, it's published and it's updated with a new transaction every 10 minutes.
Yeah, well, with a new batch of transactions, yeah.
What do you mean by transactions? I mean,
yeah. So let's say that we mine some Bitcoin. We take a computer, we point it at Bitcoin. We're like, work real hard, bud. It solves a block. Chris gets 50 Bitcoin. Chris would love his life if he got 50 Bitcoin. He's going to take the blockchain will say, hey, 50 Bitcoin was created. Okay. He's going to send me 5 Bitcoin. The blockchain will say, Chris sent 5 Bitcoin to Stuart. Now Chris has 45 Bitcoin. Stuart has 5 Bitcoin. I'm going to send you 1 Bitcoin. It's going to say, okay, Stuart sent 1 Bitcoin to Ann. That means Stuart has 4 Bitcoin. Ann has 1 Bitcoin. Okay. And every single computer around the world that supports this network is going to check everybody's transactions every single time. It's going to have a complete history. Okay. So to hit you with a term you're probably familiar with now at this point, Bitcoin is rigorously honest money. Absolutely every single transaction ever done on chain is there for you to see. Think of it like a money network that just regular people operate.
Okay.
It's not operated by a government. It's not operated by a credit card. It's literally just people with computers. And they're all like, okay, guys, who sent what to who? I see that. I can track it back. I verify it. It's like a community network. And since money is just stuff we agree on, right? And it's like, well, we're just trying to exchange things between one another. We happen to have found a really sweet digital money that works anywhere all the time, that anybody can use, anybody can buy, anybody can earn. Everybody has to work for it. And everybody just supports the network and checks each other's work. And it's all out in the open. And it's like the complete opposite of the type of money that we're used to using, right? The type of money that we're used to using is like, hey, man, just trust us, okay? All right, look, this is money. Just use it. It's fine. So what do you think about Bitcoin now that we've talked about it? Do you have any new thoughts or feelings about it? Is it as confusing as it was when we started? Were we mansplaining or were we being helpful? Like, what's your take?
I think it's helpful. I do understand it better. And then you're like, why is it this way? It's way different from anything like we've ever heard of, which I get that that's just how things progress. The internet was completely different, from anything anyone could imagine at the time. And that's
how technology evolves. Yeah.
Okay. So does it feel like we've made a little bit of progress toward helping you understand more about Bitcoin?
Yes. Like, I think it's nice. It's great that it's a store of value that's not going to go down over time. It's good to know that you can exchange it for money, like cash, because that makes it more tangible to me. Like, can't just disappear. And well, I don't think that's, into thin air. So you can actually like use it to buy things, even if people don't take Bitcoin itself. That's good to know.
Okay.
Can I buy more Bitcoin?
That's the real question. Can Chris buy more Bitcoin now? So let's do that recap. We had Anne here today, and we didn't get her to the point where she's ready to yeet the entirety of y'all's funds into Bitcoin, but we did make progress. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, me too.
So we talked about how the two of you started talking 3 years ago informally about Bitcoin, brought it up again about a year ago in a financial planning situation, and the financial advisor said various items like it's got lots of risk, or we should diversify, or whatever you want to say. And it wasn't until several months ago that Chris was like, okay, it's time for Bitcoin. And he went out and he smash bought some Bitcoin, and he wants to smash buy more Bitcoin. And he'll never stop wanting to smash buy Bitcoin, because for Chris, it's clicked, right? Bitcoin is money. Bitcoin is the best money. You can't make more of it. You can exchange it between anyone. You can think about the world in terms of Bitcoin. And it's real, even though you can't touch it. Is it made in a rock quarry somewhere deep on the dark web? No. It's made right in front of your face, and you can check on it whenever you want and get a complete history of everything it's ever done, which is rigorously honest to like a heartbreaking level, where you're just like, bless this beautiful online form of money that we can all use, so that we don't have to get wrecked by a form of money that's not designed for us. It's not designed to help us get ahead. That's not our money. That's the government's money, and we have to use it because they say so. Bitcoin's our money, and we can use it because we say so. And just like gold, that the government doesn't control, they don't control Bitcoin either. So can Chris buy a whole bunch more Bitcoin? Sounds like you still want to diversify,
Yeah, I mean, enough, but I would say he could buy more, as long as it's diversified.
Yeah! All right, let's go. We're not even doing the hummus. We're not even going to do the sats. We're done. Chris can buy more. This episode's over. Chris is going to go buy more Bitcoin right now.
Yeah.
So that's a huge breakthrough, okay? Because all we really want is to buy more. You don't have to be a maxi like us, but just let us get more Bitcoin, because we promise over time, you will get to the point where you're like, oh my goodness. And you won't even want any of the other stuff anymore. Guaranteed. So we're going to make you an offer here. And this one's going to be interesting. But before we do, we're going to take a little taste of some Ithaca hummus. So can you remember which flavor of Ithaca hummus you wanted to try today?
Oh, French onion.
Noise.
Please.
Okay. French onion.
We've got the French onion hummus here at your request. By the way, I think Anne eats more Ithaca hummus than any other human on earth.
Yep.
Really?
I do. Yeah. I eat it every day for lunch usually.
And has been for years and years and years and years.
All right, so let's get a crunch here.
Wow. Another good batch.
So I always forget about this, but whenever a guest chooses French onion, I'm reintroduced to that like umami flavor, dude. That kind of That caramelized onion right there. Oh my God.
That's what it tastes like. Exactly what it tastes like, isn't
It's
it?
so good. So good. I'm diving back in here.
I'm going to have this for lunch.
Well, you can take it with you.
Hey, that's your tub right there.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going back for number 2. Mmm.
Yeah, since we're doing that, we got a second. I'll go ahead and do it too. It's amazing how all these flavors taste exactly like the image that's on them. I mean, that literally tastes like you just ate a mouthful of caramelized onions.
Man, that is freaking tasty.
Yeah.
Full on, dude. Not even chilling it.
Yeah.
It's just straight up good.
Yeah.
So good.
Wow. Okay. So that tub is yours.
Thanks.
Now we ask each of our guests to come back on in 9 months. Will you come back on in 9 months? Give us an update on your Bitcoin baby.
Yeah, I'd love to.
All right.
I want all our Satillionaires to smash that like and subscribe and comment whether you think Anne's going to turn back up, okay, in 9 months, which would be December or January, and be full Bitcoin laser eyes, full Bitcoin maxi, where put in the comments if you think she's going to be like, Chris, can I buy more Bitcoin? If the tables are going to flip, dude. Woo! I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's make Anne her offer here.
All right. And as a small token of our appreciation for your very valuable time, we would like to offer you a small token of our appreciation. And you can have your choice of $50 or $50 worth of Bitcoin, which, looking at the Clark Moody Bitcoin dashboard, we can see that the exchange rate for one Bitcoin is $83,500, which means that we are at 1,197 sats per dollar. 1197 times 50. Does it stink through there? Okay, that is 59,850 sats, or $50. What would you like? What's your choice?
Good time to buy Bitcoin, huh?
Oh, the Bitcoin.
Yeah, let's go, dude. We got wives stacking sats. High five. Oh my gosh. There are some men out there that literally a tear has come to their eye. They're like on the way to work and they're like, oh my God, it is possible, bro. Yeah. Amazing, dude.
Yeah.
If we don't do anything at all, it's going to be to help guys help their wives stack sats, dude.
Yeah.
That's actually the secret mission of the show, so that I can stack more sats, dude.
Yeah.
I'm willing to do enough work to have the whole world stack sats just to convince my wife to let me stack some more sats, dude. So if you made it this far, especially if you watched the heroic act of convincing our wives to let us stack more sats, smash the like and subscribe. Do not be subscriber number 1001.
Oh,
Don't do it, dude. Do not be subscriber number 1001. That would be deeply, deeply painful, and you might not ever recover from it, because one from among you will get 1,000,000 sats right on your head, and you don't even have to convince your wife to let you get it. We'll just give it straight to you, and we'll unlock that live show Friday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern, where we will be handing out our hard-earned tips and tricks for talking to your wives about Bitcoin without them falling asleep.
Yes.
Okay? So remember, Sat Chats is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice. Also, our guests' views are their own. See you on the next one, Satillionaires.